and we are welcoming. Numbers are still going up, so welcome all those who are joining. I'll just allow the numbers to grow a little bit more before we kick off. But this is our pre-council webinar to give you a heads up on what to expect at our council meeting in Seoul. I think our numbers have sort of plateaued, so welcome everybody. If we move on to our next slide, please, Mathieu. So as it says here, this is all about giving you a heads up of what to expect at our council meeting in Seoul. And it's great that you've joined us today to get a bit of a preview of what we'll be covering at the council meeting in Seoul. Of course, the council is only a part of all of our meetings and discussions in Seoul. There will be many other opportunities to discuss the key topics that we've got, but of course council is our important formal time where we receive the reports from our committees and we make the decisions that we need to make for the IIA to operate. So we won't be doing a roll call today, but we will be pausing every now and then to enable you to ask questions if you wish. I won't be monitoring the chat, but Mathieu will be. So if you've got questions, please do send them through and he will interrupt me and make sure that you are able to raise any points that you want to raise. So what we're covering today is the reports from the key statutory committees. That's the executive, strategic planning, nominations and audit and finance. And there will be within the business agenda reports from advanced committee, actuarial standards, the sections, and there will be a key part on future events. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So this will be a hybrid event. Obviously, we're looking forward to welcoming as many of you as are able to be joining us in Seoul, but to ensure that we are able to welcome potentially everybody, this will be a hybrid meeting, so you will be able to join online, but only virtual council members will be able to participate. Observers will be welcome to watch the live broadcast via the YouTube. You'll need to make requests if you are attending as a virtual participant, and we will unmute contributors one at a time to be able to make those contributions. The procedures for council follow what we have got as a well-established pattern from previous council meetings. So all motions will be accepted and proposed and seconded. We will then hold a discussion on each motion, and then it'll be followed by a vote, and that will be your opportunity to vote. In addition to our business agenda, if we move on, please, Mathieu, there will be a consent agenda, which we won't be discussing, but will be taken as agreed, subject, of course, to your approval of it. And essentially, these are things that we're not expecting debate or need for discussion. So they're things that are straightforward. In the case of the policies, these are minor amendments to existing policies, primarily to recognise the introduction of the new IIA services incorporated in Canada. So there's nothing material to worry about there, but I do nevertheless encourage all of you to read through them and check you are happy with the changes that have been made, and feel free to raise questions on any item of the consent agenda. But the intention will be that we'll take the consent agenda as a single item, and in the absence of any questions or comments to the contrary, we will, subject of course to your approval, take all of that as one item on our agenda. Okay, so I will, before I go on to the statutory committee, I will just pause briefly to check whether there are any questions or comments that have come through, and I will be judged by Mathieu, and if he gives me a thumbs up, I will carry on.
Yeah, we're good. Kathy is asking about the list of FMAs. We are going to put the link to the council roster. It's already on the website, but we'll add it in the answer link in the Q&A. So it's already there now. So if anybody wants to see the council roster, it's there. And if we always recommend to look at the council roster, because if you think you're going and you're not on council roster, that means you have not registered. So it would be good to do it because the deadline was yesterday or Friday, actually. That's it. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Mathieu. So an important note there, please do check the roster. Okay, so if we move on, the first key report will be from me and the executive committee, and I will be covering the impact that we're having with the key supranational organisations with which we are engaging. Also covering an update from the AI task force, an update on our plans and progress around diversity and inclusion, an update on the climate risk action plan, and also the Future Actuary task force. These are all items that are part of the EC's operational oversight. So they're all matters that are looked at in detail at EC and will be covered within the EC council agenda item and report. So again, I'll just pause very briefly in case there's a question on any of those or any other thing that you're interested in around EC. Okay, after EC, we will get the report of the Strategic Planning Committee. There's quite a lot on the agenda of the Strategic Planning Committee that we'll be hearing about in Seoul. Again, although the EC is operationally in charge of a number of these items, it's the SPC that looks at whether our activities are aligned with our strategy and our strategic plan. So the SPC will be taking an interest in ensuring that the work of our AI task force is aligned with strategically our objectives, and likewise to the climate risk work that we're doing, and such an important part of our focus, our external focus, particularly our engagement with a number of supranationals. I'm hoping there won't be too much on the Canadian incorporation this time. This was an item that took up a lot of our focus last year, because as well as focusing on strategy. The SPC was created to create a forum for debating things that were causing some disagreement within members of council. And for some while, it was unclear on the optimal way forward as we look to restructure ourselves, to protect ourselves and make us more efficient. And that's what led to the creation and incorporation of IIA services in Canada, which is now pretty much fully up and running with one or two tiny details to be ironed out this quarter as we sort out the catching up of invoices and so on, and get all of the new arrangements in place, which will happen. So that was a key part of SPC last year. We will get a brief update this year. SPC is also looking at how we can strategically position advice and assistance and support them as they look to grow our global profession. The Pandemic Task Force is an important initiative at the moment. Education is going to come back to be a key focus, I suspect, of SPC for a little while now, particularly with AI coming in and a number of changes that is going to mean. So we're going to allow some time for education on the SPC agenda, probably this year and maybe into next year as well. SPC is also responsible for horizon scanning and looking at issues that might be coming down the line to us. SPC will also be looking at our long-term planning and financial plan and ensure it's aligned with our strategic plan and any other sort of key developing topics that are on any of our plates at the moment. So that's what we will be hearing from SPC in Seoul, and you'll get a report of what they're currently doing and what they're planning to do for the rest of this year. So
Good.
again, I'll pause. Mathieu.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a few questions, and I can. The one from Kathy Lynn is asking, saying there's many supras active at regional levels. Does SPC keep in touch with FMAs to coordinate events, things like that? The answer is no, because that's a coordination role, so it's not a strategic role. So EC does that, and we have the relationship managers that do that, and we coordinate sending representation. The Secretariat does that level of details, which we have done recently, by the way. A good example was not too long ago in Latin America, where we sent somebody to represent the IAA there. So the representation is always, of course, vetted through the EC. So that is not an SPC role, it's an EC role, and it is being done. The second question was from Gabor. Is the climate sustainability survey going to go to SPC as discussed council? Yes, it is drafted in the draft agenda. And once Micheline gives us the thumbs up, we will be sharing with everybody. And that document is going to be linked to the SPC agenda. So that's it.
Great, thanks you, Mathieu. So yes, you will be hearing about that at council. I would just add to Mathieu's comment, I'm not going to disagree with what he said about the engagement of local FMAs with local supras, but at the IAA, we do like to keep closely in touch with what our FMAs are doing to see if there are ways in which we can support them. So that's one of the roles of advice and assistance, and we will from time to time support FMAs as they engage with regulators. We will support FMAs if they are looking to potentially engage supras or governments locally. That's all part of what we as an IAA can offer to work with other FMAs and give them the opportunity to learn from the whole wider actuarial community. So yes, things are done at the appropriate level, but the IAA is and does support all of our FMAs as they request and as we're able to do so. So that's SPC. The next key statutory committee that you'll hear from is the report of the nominations committee. And we had the usual letter that was sent out to FMAs asking for you to nominate positions to be filled within the volunteer ranks of the IAA. We had 35 positions to be filled, and we received 87 submissions. And you will get a report on the submissions that we received, and I've no doubt you will be getting encouragement to not only submit volunteers, because volunteers are the lifeblood of what the IAA is able to do. But one of the things that you will get, as we always get from the nominations committee, is a report on our diversity. And it's really important to us at the IAA that we encourage diversity in all of its forms. We need diversity of FMA representation. We need diversity across race and gender, but also across diversity of thought. And that includes things like diversity of age and experience. It was very noticeable in Singapore when we had the meeting on AI that the younger volunteers were bringing a diversity of thought that perhaps a few of us older volunteers who've been around the block a while don't always appreciate. And we are really keen to ensure that we get the widest diverse group of volunteers to enable us to produce the best work that we can. So you will hear about that from nominations committee. They have been busy, as they always are at this time of year. They've already met 6 times. And a key part of their work at this time of year is around the selection of the next president-elect, and you will hear that report from the nominations committee in Seoul. So I will again pause there before we talk about finance and administration, just to see if there are any questions, Mathieu. I'm not seeing any, so that's great. We can move on to finance and administration. We will get a report from the chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, and of course a key part of that will be the presentation of our financial statements for last year. And I would encourage you to look and study those statements. Not always the most exciting of documents, but they are really important. They are a record of what we've been doing, how we've been spending your money, how we are able to be effective, and we welcome the scrutiny not only of the Audit and Finance Committee, but of all FMAs to ensure that we're carrying out wishes of council appropriately. So please do look at the financial statements, and if you have any questions, please do feed through on them. Here are some of the highlights. We had a strong year last year due to cost savings and not actually spending all that we planned to spend, including pushing back the IT project into this year. So you'll hear a bit more about that, but the high level message is that 2023 was a strong year, and we enter 2024 in a good position. And you will get more detail of that from Brendan when he presents at council. The other key part of the presentation from the finance and administration team is our introduction of a carbon offset policy. This is the first step that we have taken to start to look at the environmental impact of the IAA. And it's only a first step. And please recognize that we do not see that this is the last say here. This is us looking to see what we can and what we should do. And we will be keen to hear from FMAs about their own developing policies in this area, because the climate impact that we have is not only important for us as an organization, but if we as actuaries are to have credibility with the supranationals that we engage with, so it's important that we start to have policies that we are encouraging others to take. So understanding the impact that we're making, and in this case, looking to offset some of that impact. I hesitate at the moment to say all, because at the moment we're looking at the environmental impact of flights by staff and those volunteers who are required to travel on behalf of the IAA for official duties. As we develop better expertise and understanding in this area, I do expect this policy to develop. So it's an initial step. We're expecting, and it's already budgeted, that this will cost us Canadian dollars 3,000 to 5,000. It may well be that as we look to offset more than just the travel that is mentioned, that our costs could increase, but we will be keen to hear from FMAs both on their thoughts for the policy that we should adopt, but also the sort of policies that they're adopting as well. So this is our first step, and there will be several opportunities in Seoul for us to talk about this, and then at council to approve this first step in our developing a policy in this area. So I will pause at that point to see if there are any questions on our F&A agenda and items there. Mathieu, has anything come through that I need to?
Yeah, Catherine is asking a question about the webinar describing the library system, about building intellectual capital and so on. We will, the answer is yes, but not now. We are having our quotations for our next IT system, and the goal is when we have a new website to be able to have easier access to the various intellectual capital. So yes, once in due time, the answer will be that will be done indeed. So that is that. Sorry, just getting rid of, I'm gonna try. Gabor has raised his hand. I'm gonna try to allow him to talk, but it does not always work in webinar mode, so bear with me, but I will try to unmute Gabor. Gabor, try to talk now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Charles, can you elaborate a little bit about the second bullet, if I understand that correctly? So that covers IA staff and those who travel on behalf of the IAA, like when somebody travels to a COP meeting, but it does not cover the whole bulk of volunteers. So when we travel to Seoul, it's not, so we are not at this stage, you're saying
That's correct. So
you're
Gabor,
you're not assessing the cost of, eye operations, because a few hundred people travels twice a year or at least once a year, and we are not covering this at the moment. Is it what you're saying?
that is absolutely correct, Gabor. And the simplest way to envisage what this policy will cover is that if the IAA is paying for it, the IAA will offset it. So to the extent that the IAA is paying expenses to send somebody to COP, then the IAA will also look at the impact of that and do the carbon offset. But you're right, Gabor, it's not picking up all of those volunteers who travel either under their own costs or under costs subsidized by their FMAs. This only covers those costs that the IAA is incurring for its activities.
Okay, I understand. And I would suggest that only for knowledge reason, not to make an offset, but to know what our carbon impact is, it would be good to make an assessment, an estimate about, what it means that the eye holds a number of meetings. You can unmute or mute me, Matthew, again. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Gabor. And I do think this is a really important issue that we'll want to debate. It would clearly be quite challenging and potentially inefficient for the IAA to try to
permission to talk.
Somebody else wanted to. I could hear somebody. No. It would be quite challenging for us to track every single engagement that anybody takes with an IAA banner, but we can start to engage with FMAs for them to collect that information and for us to collate it and bring it together. So there are a number of ways that we may do this, and we would like to talk with you all and with particularly the FMAs that have the largest travel contingents about how we can best do that. But clearly that's something that we need to think about. And this policy will develop. This isn't the ending of it.
Yeah, and we already put on a slide, Charles, that we expect to have a discussion further in Sao Paulo next year in Brazil. And just for because we use a technical term, COP is the Conference of Parties. So it's a UN body that discusses notably climate. So just saying in case you were not aware of what that one. And the next one is in Azerbaijan.
Great. Thank you very much, Mathieu. So shall we move on? We will then come to our business agenda, and there will be updates from the Advanced Committee and the Actuarial Standards Committee, and from the task forces that are currently doing work or I say on behalf of, but we're reporting up to the Advanced Committee. So that will be covered in Seoul, together with the latest from the Actuarial Standards Committee and the work that they're doing around ISAPs and the development and amendment of our standards of practice. And then after the updates from those two committees, we will get a report from the sections, and Abe, on behalf of the sections, will give us an update on the section activities, as well as looking forward to the JOCO, our joint colloquium that will be taking place in Brussels in September, and I hope that many of you will be able to join us there. I'm sure it'll be an excellent event. I believe, and Mathieu could correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that we have had a colloquium of all of the sections together in one place. Is that correct, Mathieu? Thank
At
you.
least in recent history.
Yeah, certainly in my memory. And therefore, it's all the more exciting because it's an opportunity to see the breadth of what actuaries around the world are doing. So do feel encouraged to consider that as a key focus for your learning and development in 2024. I'm sure it'll be an excellent event. And then after we have a report on Brussels, we will look forward to some of our future events. So we'll be hearing in particular from the Kenyans on the proposed ICA, which will take place in Nairobi in 2029, and there will be formal approval from Council asked for that. It's already been approved by the EC, but you will get to see the exciting presentation that we have from the Kenyan representatives, and I'm sure that will be a particularly exciting event to look forward to. And then you will also be hearing from us and EC's plans for future IAA council and committee meetings and locations over the next year or two. And then finally, we will have an update on progress for the ICA in Tokyo in a couple of years' time. So all of those will be events to look forward to, and events that you will get updates on at our meeting in Seoul, at the council meeting. So again, I will pause in case there are any questions on any of those items. Seeing no more questions, I
Any
think.
questions and comments and good journey and so.
Yep. So a lot of people are saying us a good journey. Philip is welcoming us to Brussels, and people look forward to the meeting in Seoul. So
Excellent.
That's all we get.
In which case, I will have a final pause to see if there are any questions or comments that you want to make on anything, either of items that we've covered or items that we haven't covered in this pre-council webinar. Unless there are any questions coming through, I will wish you all a good and safe journey to Seoul for what I am sure will be an excellent meeting. I'm looking forward to the welcome I know we will receive from the South Koreans, who are very keen to receive us, and we will be getting a short presentation from the South Koreans at the start of our council meeting, which I think is really an important way for us to recognise the journey that they've been on, and an opportunity to hear from them and to thank them for their hospitality. And I would encourage all of you, before you come out to Seoul, to read through the papers, ensure that you arrive at the council meeting having consulted your FMAs on approval or otherwise of the motions that you will be discussing and debating. And in the absence of anything further, I look forward to seeing you all in Seoul very shortly. So safe travels and goodbye, and thank you for joining us here today. Thank you. Goodbye.